Hi guys, welcome back to the Guitar Hour, episode 3 of season 1.
Indeed.
Halfway mark.
Halfway mark.
We
Yeah,
made
good
it.
point. Yeah, absolutely. Is it this one or the next one where we've got a season break? After the next one. We do one next week.
More and then it's a season break.
Okay,
yeah.
so we'll tell you about the season break afterwards. We do have some incredibly exciting news to deliver to you at some point about our special guest. Yeah.
Oh, is that this week we deliver the news?
No.
Wait.
Calm down, Dave.
Sorry, it's just I'm
shoot it
so
too
soon.
soon.
I've been meeting people around about and saying, "Oh, you're never going to get us, man. I really can't."
What's
tell
really
you.
funny though is I mentioned a couple of months ago that we'd have a special guest, and at the time, it's actually our special guest that we're doing something with later in the year. And people think it's the person that they sort of, obviously I haven't told them who it is, but people are guessing the wrong person, which is quite exciting. So welcome everybody. Oh yeah, pink socks guys, you can't beat some pink socks. Welcome to the stream. As usual, I'm joined by David Beebe,
Hello.
Dave Bronze, and Dan Smith.
Hello.
Dan only just got here by the skin of his teeth.
Ah, yeah, there's some serious
Stuck between
strife on the way.
Manchester, well not Manchester traffic, but M62 traffic. It's one of those roads in the UK that's really renowned for always having.
Yeah, Dan,
shits
man,
to
he
deal with.
drives a long way to get here for the show.
Dan's a
Big
dedicated
respect.
individual,
Yeah,
very dedicated individual.
Far too much time in vehicles.
yeah.
Absolutely, it was almost last week he almost didn't get here because of vehicle issues as well, but he's here, so that's all good.
Good
So get chatting away, guys. Hope you enjoy the show. We have got tons to talk about. We're going to do loads of playing. Now, first thing to say, as usual, now this should be easier for me this week because we have a new capture card that A is higher quality and B is in real time. So there's still obviously the Twitch delay, the delay on the stream, which is about 2 seconds, 2.5, 3 seconds, maybe a little bit more, which we can't do anything about because that's the nature of the speed of light. But we are seeing ourselves in real time on the screen, whereas previously there was a 2-second delay. So in theory, if I do this and move over and down, that was so much easier. This poll, the backing track poll, http://strawpoll.me 7106149. That's where you're going to go to choose the backing track that you want us to play over for this guitar hour. There's a choice of 5 this week as opposed to 4. Get checking those out. If anyone wants to post that in the chat, that would be amazing. I'm already seeing some hilarious comments. I thought there might be some funny comments in this particular episode, seeing as there was a post on Facebook today that seems to have, we won't go into it, but it seems to have brought the guitar community
Angered
to
the guitar
civil war, which has been, my word, it's been very interesting. Anyway, let's forget about that and move on and do things that are actually important. Or fun, I should say. So, as usual, we are going to start. We have our show notes here. So we got the link down there for the backing track poll. Go and do that. If anyone wants to put, that's fantastic. Ninja Badger, you are a genius. Thank you so much. Also, because this is so funny, because we had Beard Man and Hat Guy, or was it Beard Guy and Hat Man?
Hat Man and Beard Boy.
Yeah, Hat Man and Beard Boy. Right. So basically, it's like a really shit version of Batman and Robin.
Thanks, Tom.
You haven't even got utility belts.
Wow.
And you're wearing your pants on the inside of your trousers.
We have
You're doing all the superhero
as
things
far as
wrong.
you
We have
know,
6
yeah.
pedal boards though. Batman's
Yeah, because of that, basically, you'll see like there's David Beebe. We've got Tom Quayle.
Dave Bronze.
This is actually harder than it looks.
that way.
It's really difficult. Dave Bronze, and then Dan can point at his own name because I can't reach. Dan Smith. So there's no excuse now, guys. Unless you've grown thank you very much, Ninja Badger. Unless you've grown particularly attached, and this is trolling, particularly attached to Beard Boy and Hat Man.
I don't mind being Batman.
Feel free to use their proper names from now on. Okay, guys. So without further ado, let's get straight into the news. Okay, so Dan's just shuffled his papers like some news presenter. Trevor McDonald. Okay, so let's share the desktop with you guys. So hopefully you can see. I'm just going to make this window a little bit smaller. So hopefully, I'll just check this. Yeah, you should be able to hear me this time, or hear us, because obviously the first guitar hour I managed to obliterate the vocal mic when I actually went to the news. So we're doing the news, and this week we've got a couple of really exciting things to tell you about. One about a product launch, and one about a series of lessons in a particular website. It's been around for a while, but there's some new stuff on there which is super cool. So the first one, have you guys tried these? The Electro-Harmonics pedals?
I've got a few HX pedals. I've got a Memory Boy and a few
Right.
others.
Not tried the synthy ones?
I was
No.
with you that time when you were.
Yeah, you were actually when I was
Looking
shooting
at the
demos for
pieces.
them.
Fancy one of those POG ones.
Right, so basically these function, I've made this a bit bigger for you so you should be able to read it. They have almost like a MIDI guitar capability. It's not MIDI at all. Basically you plug one guitar cable, just a standard guitar cable from your guitar into the pedal, then it goes out to either a PA or a guitar amp. And this basically is a Mellotron emulator or synth. So you just plug the cable in, it basically tracks everything you play really, really well. So I did some demos for sound effects and Dan came and helped me film the demos, and we did the key 9, the B9 and the
C9.
C9. Yeah, C9. So this is the Mel 9. So they've got basically a B3 organ style one, they've got old school synths, and they've got strings and stuff, and then this is the Mellotron one. This is well worth checking out because basically the tracking is pretty astounding considering there's no MIDI pickups to utilise at all, and I tried them and we had a little bit of an issue with the B9 one, didn't we? It was less it seemed to track less well than the others.
Yeah, because that's the one I'd be most interested in.
It did track, don't get me wrong, it was really good,
B9
but
organs might be
there was
awesome.
a couple of them,
There
the
was an
keys
issue
one.
with if you play a chord,
Yes.
then say you strummed a chord as you get higher up, so the bottom notes would drop off as
Yeah.
almost to make room for the other ones. But that wasn't the case with the other
Okay.
ones.
With the C9 that wasn't the case, and then with the key 9 as well that wasn't the case. The tracking was incredible, but the B9 tracking was really good as well. It's just that the C9 and the key 9 were just absolutely astounding. So you can check out my demos on Sound Effects Premiere's YouTube channel. But this has just been made available, and they're not that expensive. And if you want to do some kind of interesting guitar sounds that are not standard guitar sounds, they're phenomenal.
So how does this? It's not triggering samples.
It is triggering samples, yeah. It's as far as I'm aware, it's a synthesis engine that is triggered by playing
Guitar.
a monophonic guitar signal into it.
But it's not triggering a waveform though.
I think it is triggering a
It is
waveform.
triggering a wave. 'Cause
It's
that's-
not triggering. It doesn't work the same way as like the
Roland synth.
Roland synths. No, it's not. The pitch if there is any, I believe it's pitch conversion. It doesn't say how it works.
It's really,
Nobody's.
I'm really interested in this because presumably there's no latency at all if it's.
Let me switch back to the normal stream view as well, guys, so you can see us. There's no latency at all, or if there is, it's imperceptible, which is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
They're pretty phenomenal the way they work, and you can plug them into your normal pedal board chain, and I think they have two outs. One can go to a desk, or you can split the out. One goes to a desk and one goes to the amp, because you can split your signal.
Do you know what the price is on them, Tom?
I don't actually. I don't know what the price is, but then they're not. They're not. They're less than £200 for definite.
Wow.
In the £100 to £160 range, I think.
Could be good for going on the prog tour that I'm doing.
Very.
Celestial Fire.
Yeah.
Covering some of that.
They sound great as well. So that is something that we thought was kind of worth checking out. Now, the other thing from a news perspective in terms of products that are out, and again, I'll just do this and then hide the OBS streaming thing. This website, My Music Masterclass, I've just been getting into this. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger for you guys so you can see it, because I'm streaming in, we're downsampling from 4K, so everything's tiny. So My Music Masterclass basically is a really fantastic tuition website. It's not a brag. is a really fantastic tuition website with, if you just look at the names on here, Jonathan Kreisberg, Rufus Philpott on bass, Adam Rogers, Larry Kuntz. This list of names is just Abraham Laboriel, Bob Mintzer.
Mike Stern's on there, isn't he?
Mike Stern's on here, yeah, absolutely. Jerry Bergonzi, David Liebman.
It's quite jazz oriented.
It's totally jazz oriented,
Yeah.
Totally. So if you're not a jazzer, this site's of no interest to you, I would
Super
imagine.
heavy hitters on there, like
George Garzone.
It's big names. Don't come.
Gabe Laboriel.
Kenny Werner, just full of all of these insane players. There's Scott Henderson as well, which will definitely have some crossover appeal. John Abercrombie, just amazing. Hadrian Farrell's on there. Now, I bought the other day, and so did Mr. BB. This is the newest lesson, this Jonathan Kreisberg lesson, Polyrhythmic Guitar #1. It's an amazing lesson. You have, unfortunately, they're selling, I don't know why they're selling both parts individually, but they are. And it's just fantastic. So I would, £170 or US is the price, or Canadian is the price of the AHX pedal, so £170, so I was about right. So yeah, this is just fantastic. Obviously I can't play you any of the tutorial for obvious reasons, but if you're into Kreisberg, or you're into jazz guitar, or you're into kind of rhythmic ideas, interesting rhythmic ideas, polyrhythmic stuff. He does. You can see it there, like rhythmic grouping triplets, displacing triplets, polyrhythms, syncopation, anticipation, displacement of melody lines. It's just phenomenal. So we thought that was kind of interesting. Check out mymusicmasterclass.com as well if you're interested. Sorry.
Have you got? Because there's another couple of things on there. There's a guy that was on the No Guitar is Safe podcast.
Oh, right.
Bruce Foreman, the
Yeah.
cowbop guy. He's got some stuff on there.
Oh, right.
Now you can either buy the lesson or
Yeah.
rent it,
And stream it.
or can you pay a certain thing to see everything? Or is it not
No,
work like that?
as far as I'm aware, there isn't a set fee to view everything. Although
Right.
there could be, I haven't seen it.
Right,
But yeah, you can stream for I think it's 5 days.
right.
Did you really cheap
did
fee?
you buy the video?
I just bought it and downloaded it.
No way, I'll get anything in 5
days.
days.
Yeah,
It'll take me
exactly.
about 5 years.
Or you can stream it indefinitely, or you can download it,
Right.
and the price gets higher depending on which one you choose.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so but it's a fantastic, really, really good website. So that's the news as far as kind of products goes, and as far as kind of interesting things that you might want to get into. Dave's got a little bit of new. What have you been up to, Dave?
I went down to Laney and Ibanez HQ on Monday and met with Dawson's clown,
Yeah,
who's in the
Dawson's
chat.
Clown.
That's Lee.
Oh, is it Lee?
Lee,
Hi, Lee.
yeah.
How you doing?
I met with Lee and Paul and the guys, and met Mr. Laney himself.
Hi, Boo. By the way, how you doing?
And yeah, tried out their GHR 50 amp, which is really similar to the amp that I built myself in concept. I don't know if it is in design because I didn't open it to have a
Did
look.
you say you've nicked my ideas?
Did
No.
you tell them how to build amps, Dave?
No, I didn't, because I've built amps, but I just nick people's ideas and then sort of refine them. I'm not a clever designer or anything like that. But anyway, so yeah, I went to Laney and that was a great day out, and hopefully the start of something
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful relationship, maybe.
So yeah. And I did a gig at St George's Hall, which is the biggest venue in Bradford. Not that that's that impressive. It's not like
No, but
Wembley
the actual
Arena.
gig was really interesting.
So I was playing The Trooper by Iron Maiden, and we had a whole ton of guitarists.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of which,
Oh, yeah, The Trooper, yeah.
this weird bit there, this week.
This weird speak.
This weird speaks. We've only had one of these, haven't you?
No, you haven't had one yet.
I haven't had
You've
one.
sniffed it.
I sniffed it and I'm weird.
So these. Sorry, go on, Dave. You
So yeah, so
provide
anyway,
these.
big gig, playing Iron Maiden, very happy to be doing that in front of lots and lots of people. By the way, did you hear about the crash that Ed Force One had? With the
Ed Force One, no.
That's the Iron Maiden plane. They smashed one of the engines up, so we're.
How?
I'm not really sure.
Is it going to be on Air Crash Investigation?
Who
We've got an
knows?
obsession with this, haven't we?
A total obsession. I love Air Crash Investigation.
Anyway, so the Trooper buying some beers, get Iron Maiden's plane back.
So we're funding an
Beer at a
engine,
time.
which
Yeah.
is like, what did Ed Markey say that was? That's like
$500,000.
more than that, way more than $1 million, I think, for an engine. He's going to have to sell a lot of beer.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
But we can start.
we can make a start. Every
can
journey
absolutely
starts
make a
with the
start.
first step.
His
Isn't it?
insurance will go up now.
Hilarious. But the beer is actually really nice.
Mm.
I think
Yeah,
I've tried these
tasty.
before, but I'm enjoying this, and it's the first time we've had authentic rock beer in the room.
Absolutely. Which
Yeah.
obviously, we'll try and get some kind of fusion brew next week. Yeah.
Such a thing surely can't exist.
Let's create it.
Oh, there's now then. Yannis85, who joined us last night actually when I did a test stream. Thanks, Yannis, and had a cool question actually, which we're going to try and adjust again today. The 666 limited edition one is good.
6.66%.
That's
Ah.
really cool. Thanks for that. I'll check. I didn't know that existed. We'll check that out. So that's. Has anyone else got anything interesting to tell us?
Going to Holland tomorrow.
We're going to Holland tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm gigging it. Oh yeah, I'm going.
You seriously travel around more than anyone I know. It's
Well,
nuts.
well, you travel a fair bit, but
Yeah, but not like it's crazy.
yeah, I was in Northern Ireland last weekend gigging, and then Holland, gigging in Holland on Saturday.
Dan's an international superstar.
But definitely not.
An international superstar with braces.
Swinger.
Swinger.
International
International swing star.
Man of
International
swing.
swinger. International man of mystery.
So what are you doing in Holland?
I'm just gigging at some kind of jazz festival. Is it Eindhoven? Is that Holland?
Yeah. They
Yeah.
have a football team.
Well, there you go. They have a football team, must be legit.
Place.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I'm gigging there on Saturday, and then we've got to pretty much drive back through the night, and then gig in Lowestoft on Sunday,
God, blimey.
and then back to teaching in schools on Monday. 'Cause I'm
Cool.
an absolute
Proper
work maniac.
musician, that's what you are.
Well, we'll talk about that kind of career stuff.
Yeah,
We will.
yeah, shortly, that's our topic.
Segue.
Yeah, that's our topic for today. Thank you, 521 Steve. It does look pretty nice. We unfortunately, when we do this stream, we have to use a different lens to the one I use for my test stream. So it's sharp, but it's not as sharp. If you want to check out what it can look like, do check out the stream I did last night. My word, it looks ridiculous. So that's the news. We are swiftly moving into Dan's challenge, which is going to be quite interesting this week. We decided, I'll just say this before we start, we did have the challenge to do play with just 2 fingers, but we kind of tried it and we decided that it wasn't really pushing anything forward musically. It was a nice challenge. It was an interesting challenge.
It
It
is,
didn't
but
really
it's
teach
like-
you anything.
It's kind of like playing while standing on one leg or something. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not. That's not to insult, you know, the
God, no,
suggestion.
No, it's a great suggestion.
But the whole point of these little challenges and limitations is to push something out of it. Whereas the 2-finger thing, it was kind of a hindrance for the sake of a hindrance, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is useful sometimes, you know, but not. It didn't really fit with our challenge, and also it means I can't do legato. Although I can't do legato for this challenge anyway.
Ah, yeah.
What is the challenge then?
What we're gonna do, I think we said three note phrases, and one of the notes has to be a bend
So
of some sort.
there's basically that's the first. So there's 3 rules. So the first rule is it's got to be 3 notes. You can only
Yeah.
play 3 notes. The second rule is one of them has to be a bend.
Yeah.
Only one of them.
Right.
Only one of them. Then
Only
we
one of
say.
them.
Only one.
That's
of
what we
them.
said before.
Right,
I think.
okay.
Okay.
And
There can be
in
only
order
one.
to make it a 3-note phrase definitively, there has to be a definitive gap between the phrases. I.e., you'd have to be able to breathe in between those phrases. Okay.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Okay.
So this is actually quite a big challenge, even though it doesn't seem like it, because there's a lot to think about. And that's kind of why you came up with this challenge, because it's something. What's different about this challenge is that it makes you play stuff musically that
The whole
it's not a
point is to
hindrance.
get
It's
off
a,
autopilot.
it's a limitation
Yeah,
exercise.
it's to get out of your comfort zone and stop, playing all your best shit.
So we're liable to sound dreadful here,
Ace.
or I am. So we've got the old chestnut of Quist Jam. So if you check out, if you've never come across these backing tracks, where have you been? But check this guy out, this channel. Just type this into YouTube, Quist Jam. Quist has got billions of backing tracks, and he's a really great player as well. Phenomenal player, really great player. This one is just the slow funk backing track in G. This is basically just allowing us to kind of not have to think too much about the harmony and just kind of play. So, just check your sounds, guys. I suppose I should check mine. Okay, great. So, in this backing track, guys, there's basically it's a G, G7 and a C, C7 or C9 vibe, and that's it basically. So, I'll keep an eye on the sound if someone wants to start, just to check everything's all right. I'm not definitively looking at you, Dan. Anybody
Start
start?
Yeah, whatever.
Go for it.
Oh man, it is hard, eh?
It is hard.
Ooh, that's 4.
I think I'll find that was 5. I think, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I can't do it. I literally can't do it.
Right, so that's why it's a challenge. That's fine. Okay, you're out. Dan, go.
Sorry.
Dan's very noisy, by the way. Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Thinking hard.
Is that card's an extra
No, that's an extra one.
I think it's an extra one, yeah.
I can physically see you engage brain now. That's alright, that's okay, we'll let that, that's fine. That's 4.
Nice though.
start out easy.
I think ending on a bend is not the best idea. You get stuck.
Oh, there's a bend turn up. Yeah, it's like, is that we are blah blah. It's 4 notes technically. Right, BB? Yeah.
It was
I had to think about it. I had to think. Yeah, nice. I like that.
What are you gonna do? 3.
Oh, way up, oh, way up. Yeah, what? Straight into your territory.
There it is.
You want to go, Mr. Bronze?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Does that count as a bend?
That does count as a bend.
Boring it. I can't do this. I cannot. I literally
never-
can't even think.
That's kind of the
I
point.
can't think 3 notes because like the limitation is so like.
Yeah, that's the point.
Because I so use my ear to play. Like I find it so hard.
If you've never practiced this way before, it's really difficult. My only point of coming across it was the Jerry Bergonzi books.
Yeah.
Is it the Melodic Rhythms one? You guys might know Jerry Bergonzi.
It's one like other pentatonic, like digital patterny stuff.
There's
Is that
also
what
there's
it's
like
called?
7 or 8 different books in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Inside Improvisation category series, and one of them is called Melodic Rhythms, and I think he starts by saying you've got to play 3-note phrases. So phrases only containing 3 notes, and like obviously it's a sax book, or it's an general improvisation book. There's no talk of bends or anything in there, but obviously that's related to guitar. But it's kind of interesting the number of phrases that he plays in an example that you would never think of with 3 notes in, because you end up thinking only about the rhythmic element of it.
Right.
Yeah.
You could play 3 notes that were like, or you could. The variation is just huge.
The difficulty is getting into that mindset of where you start doing the same phrase. It becomes like,
That was
how
from
can
my
I
side.
play the same kind of different notes with the same phrase? And it sounds rubbish.
Well, that's why I ended up playing. My first phrase was.
Yeah.
It's the most obvious, like pick, bend, and then you go right. I've already exhausted my creative output, so what the hell do I do now? And it forces you to think really, really creatively. Next challenge is 2 notes with only bending notes.
Good job, Uncle Rob. He's got his guitar out and he's playing along. That's
Uncle Rob, you genius.
good dude.
Which is the good thing about these little challenges is they can be quite inclusive to pretty much anyone, because
Yeah.
you kind of leveling the
Yeah.
playing field by putting these things in.
Absolutely.
Even if you only know, you could still do that challenge.
Well, Uncle Robert said this challenge could potentially be easier for beginners
Mm.
than for people who've got a load of vocabulary already.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing how much you rely on your vocabulary. So
Well, what I find hard is trying to switch off the thing where, like, as the melody comes into your head, you want to follow that thing, and I
now
felt
that's interesting.
I felt it really frustrating because I thought actually I can hear some really cool stuff, but I can't do it within the confines of the limitation.
Your call was being brought down.
That was it. It was breaking. It was breaking. It's my kryptonite, that exercise, because I do loads of bends, and I just like thought. Usually when I bend, it's like to put it in a confine of just 3 notes. Usually my bend might have 3 notes in it. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, limitation exercises are really interesting. Very interesting. You missed the part where I'm totally failing this. I'm glad Quiz Jam is new to you because Quista's got a load of stuff on there.
Yeah.
Really, really good. All right, guys. So that's Dan's challenge. Thank you for that, Dan. Dan will challenge us again next week, but it won't involve numbers of fingers.
Challenge Danica.
Challenge Danica. All right, guys. So we're going to move on to our main theme in our discussion, which is going to be followed by we're going to do some jamming. I'm going to play a tune, and yeah, we shall see you there. So on to the main theme. Okay, so what's our theme for today, chaps?
4 steps to kickstarting your career. So basically, there's 4 of us, so we're just going to offer a perspective on getting into that. Should I start? Because it's kind of.
I was going to say that. Actually.
Yeah.
So this has come out of a blog that I've written on my website, and it's one of the first blogs I did when I was trying to figure this out. So a lot of you won't know my story, but basically I was one of those guys who for about 20 years sat around thinking, I want to do music, I'm so fed up that I can't do this thing I'm really passionate about, and but it's impossible, it's a selfish thing for me to do, don't know where to start, and just got really proper fed up about it basically. And one day I was chatting to somebody, I took some life coaching actually, and the guy said, I just thought I can't figure this out, I can't see the wood for all the trees, so I took some life coaching. And life coaching basically is they sit down with you and they help you work through, they don't really do anything, they just say how about this, how about that. Anyway, the guy said, I said I don't think I can do music as a career because I can't afford it, I can't put my family through it, it's kind of a bit selfish, I have all these conflicts. And he said, well, do you know that you can't afford it for sure? He said, what you need to do is write a list and be really methodical about it, and rather than just having the feeling of fear, work out if it actually is possible or not. So that's the first tip actually, is if you wanted to get a career into music, like be kind of methodical about it. So what he said was work out your finances, work out if you can afford to ditch your rather mundane job and go into music. And so I went away, I added up all our expenses, I figured out we could cut loads of money by
So very methodical.
going back to the internet providers, chopping all the bills, and I worked out that
Only one of the kids needs to eat.
only one of the kids. Yeah, I didn't have any kids at
Characters
the time.
Saying that to Dad of the Year, what are you talking about?
But it literally wasn't. And to my amazement, all this fear that I had when I did the sums, I was like, wow, I could like go down 4 days a week right now and start 1 day a week working on career stuff and start transitioning to that. And this is the second tip. It's a mindset thing. So as soon as I decided to view myself, right, I've got a job that's paying the bills, but I view that as saving up for doing this career. That mindset of thinking, right, I'm a musician now, that just seemed to change everything. And the one thing I learned is that if you make space for music work, all of a sudden that music work seems to come up. If you wait until you've got enough time, it never happens. So I cut down to 2 days. I worked 3 days a week and did 2 days, a mix of teaching and composing and stuff. And then within, I think, 6 months, I'd gone down. I managed to get enough teaching work then to go down to 2 days a week doing the teaching, which is what I'm still on now. So I teach guitar 2 days a week, and then I compose and freelance 3 days a week. And that gives me a really good life balance at the moment, because I have enough money coming in to pay the bills, but also the aim now is for the music making, sales of CDs, playing live. My aim I'm working towards now is that will become more of an income generation thing. So, but really for me, it's really the one good piece of advice he gave was, look, don't just quit your job.
Yeah.
Don't just walk out of your job and suddenly I'm going to be a musician. He said, just be really organised about it. He said, the one thing that will kill off your music career will be if you jump all in. Some people do, but I'm not like 20 anymore. I've got a wife now, 2 kids at home, and being methodical really helped. But the main thing I'd say, the main thing to take from it is don't procrastinate because you think it's impossible, because it really is possible. There is enough work out there. The music industry is still pretty much our second biggest art export in this country. There's loads of room to work in this industry. So if you want a music career, it can be done. You've just got to be really disciplined. And so on my 3 days, and this will be my last thing that I'll say, but on my 3 days, I am really, I work really hard. So I'm really disciplined in doing composition, and doing my website and doing all that stuff. I work full days. I really do view it as a job. So I'd say that's another important thing, really. So
That's really good, though.
yeah. So there. Summarise: be methodical, cut down slowly, and change your mindset to thinking, I'm a musician now. What I'm working on now is saving to do the dream job. There you go.
Nice.
Good stuff.
Okay. Are we going to go in order of who's on here? Maybe. Which makes you next? Do you want to go next then?
Yeah.
Don't have to.
I'm reading what's on there, and because we had a curry quite a while ago.
Because we had a curry quite a
No,
while.
we talked about that. We
That's
talked
good.
about this. That in my mind, that made sense. We talked about this when we had a curry.
Hi, Chris Edward, by the way.
What you said there about I'm a musician now. I think that's quite an interesting thing, because there is definitely, when it comes to playing guitar for a living, or being a musician for a living, there's definitely a change in mindset for good and for bad.
Yeah.
Because for a while, I think people that, I don't know if you guys will agree with me on this, I think people that tend to end up being musicians or guitar players for a living, it kind of happens by accident. It's just that you get really into something and get quite good at it, and then you get employably good at it, and then somehow you start gigging and getting work, and then you're like, oh, maybe I'll do this. Because for the longest time, I didn't want to admit that I was a musician for a living, because I was like, this is going quite well, but it's not really, you can't really rely on this. This is all going to,
It never seemed
it's all going to
realistic.
go to shit
That's
at some
such a
point.
British thing.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it's
true.
only very recently I've been right. Okay, maybe this is what I want to do. Part of that was coming back from cruise ships and being on the dole for 4 months,
Yeah.
and then trying to apply for jobs that aren't musical. You realise that transferable. I mean, obviously we're not idiots. There's transferable skills, but to places like the job centre, if you say, I am a working musician, I'm, as a guitar player, I've got all these skills, I'm employable.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about that. They just say, well, have you tried retail? And it's like, on paper, you don't really have anything else. They just want you to get into this entry level jobs. The other thing with mindset I was going to say on that is, I think you can get people get a weird sense of entitlement with it as well, of right, I know this much about music, I should be getting gigs, I deserve to be playing music.
Right.
And then you get this weird ego about, you should be employed, you should be gigging, you should be doing this, and almost that you're too good for some gigs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I will say as being a self-employed musician is, as of next week, I'm technically working 7 days a week. I'm teaching Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and gigging Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Part of being a self-employed musician is kind of saying yes to as much stuff until you're in a position to say no.
We've talked about this on the guitar before.
We talked about this in the kitchen hour, beforehand. Is someone said if you liken it to a builder or something like that, nobody gets phoned up for a building job and they go to the house and go, that house is too small, it's not worth my time. Nobody does that. They'll take the job,
Absolutely.
There's no gig that's beneath you. I mean, obviously don't lose money, but if you do a gig, I mean, this is part of my thing, is just do as many gigs as you can with as many people. If you do a gig with a band that say there's 5 people in the band, including you, if you've not played a gig with them before, that is 5 people and 5 people's networks that you could enter by doing one gig, even if you don't get paid.
So this enters beautifully into your last comment on that little sentence there, which I think is a stroke of genius.
All right.
So talk about that.
Well, there's loads of guys that you know, everybody's like doing the YouTube thing now, and everybody's like trying to get gigs and like throwing themselves at people on Facebook, and like, you know, I'm sure you get added by guitar players and you think, oh, you know, maybe they tune into the Guitar Hour, maybe, you know, maybe they've seen the band, whatever. So you add them, and then 20 seconds later you get a message that says like my album, like my page or whatever. You know, not even, you know, proper dry fucked. Not even, you know, no kiss on the cheek. Just like buy my album.
Amazing.
It's the rudest
But
the northern version.
But
I like
on
it.
the subject of what I was getting to is that's like guitar players adding guitar players, asking guitar players for jobs, or asking guitar players for money. Is why don't you spend your time adding bass players or drummers?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Stroke of
Absolutely.
genius.
If you're one guitar player and you've got 4,000 drummer mates on your Facebook, you're probably more likely to get a gig than having 4,000 guitar players that, you know,
So
are all
true.
trying to do the same thing, you know, like that scene from The Matrix where there's loads of the same agent.
Agent Smith.
In all seriousness, though, like what you said about like not just trying to get a gig, but going to gigs is so important.
Just
Like in terms
networking,
of
just
getting
meeting
work.
people.
If you want to get work as a gigging musician, going to gigs is a fairly good place to start.
Yeah, because other musicians will be at gigs for a start, and you know you might be.
Well, other musicians in your local area as well.
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
If you're adding drummers on Facebook from Perth, Australia,
Yeah,
then
exactly.
you
I
know.
mean, that's how I got the gig for playing with Dave Bainbridge. I went to a gig, waited at the end, handed him a memory stick.
Licked his face.
His face, you know, I would. I love him. I bet he's going to be watching now.
Sorry, Dave.
But I got the gig because I went to a gig. I followed the band for years. Went to a gig, chatted to him, and you know, I didn't email. It wasn't some blank email out of the nowhere. It was a thing like personal. You know, so I think, yeah, going to gigs, you've got to be in it to win it, haven't you? So if you
You
want to
can't
be,
just sit behind your computer screen sending messages, waiting for a gig to come through your door. You know, you've got to get out and do something.
work
whether
leads to work.
Yeah, and the other thing is, as well as you said about going to gigs, is what's that phrase about so much percentage of business is done at the bar or something like that.
Yeah.
It's all about people and about networking and stuff like that. You know,
Well and
like
truly. That's why it's a people business. I mean, you have to
Yeah.
work with people, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's absolutely true. Okay, that's fantastic, Dan. Really good. Mr. BB.
Yeah, this is all really interesting to me because I'm in a sort of strange position that I've been a self-employed musician for a long time, but I've never really sort of been comfortable pushing myself, promoting myself, putting myself out there, various reasons or another. And so one of the things I'm trying to do at the moment is, like with this situation, like sitting here now, and entering almost the reverse of what you're talking about, Dan, because I think a lot of what you're talking about is like perhaps getting gigs in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean that anything else is not the real world, because that.
No,
No,
we know that.
Yeah,
We know
yeah,
that.
sorry, that was a bad phrase. I mean outside of the online.
Yeah, yeah,
online
yeah.
world. Because I've sort of taught and gigged for a long time, but never particularly, as say, like sort of being. Not that I don't enjoy it. I mean, I obviously do, but I've felt like I've been a bit held back, held myself back, and so yeah, it's getting into the sort of online thing is a little bit more interesting as a difference for me at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
But you do gig quite a bit, though, don't you?
Yeah, I do do more now. So yeah, it's strange. Like I go through this up and down thing with teaching and gigging, where if I'm doing lots of teaching, I think, oh, I want to cut back on this a bit and do more gigging, and then if I'm doing lots of gigging, I want
Yeah.
to cut back and do
Grass
some
is always
teaching.
greener.
It's all grass is always greener. Yeah, but I think a lot of the, like I was saying a few weeks ago, a lot of the sort of perhaps confidence issues have been able to mask that a little bit more. I think I'm finding I'm able to mask that a little bit more in the situations I'm used to. So getting outside of my comfort zone and trying to diversify your revenue stream, different revenue streams, and
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to talk about. Yeah.
So yeah.
so I don't really know. I haven't really got that much advice to offer because I'm sort of taking it all in myself and hopefully using it myself as well. But I think perhaps having defining what you want, trying to come to a decision of what you want out of the career. I mean, it's such a wide.
It seems like understanding that there is no one way, like you were talking
Yeah.
about, the sort of skeptical thing of
Yeah.
constantly changing your mindset. That thing of not just going, right, this is how you do things. It's like, well, I could do a bit of this, I can do a bit of this, all this is there. And being having the motivation to try and do all of them. I mean, I know Tom said this about like websites and other such things.
Yeah, that's one of the things
trying
I'm
to be
gonna talk
versed
about,
in
isn't it?
everything. It's not good enough to just be like a really good player, because there's loads of really good players. No one gives a shit.
I think to
You
be
know what I mean? Like,
confident.
loads of guys.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, go on.
So I was just gonna say, like, being confident to just like approach people as well. I get. I don't know whether this is just me or not, but you know, if you're not, it's a strange business to be in if you're not massively outgoing. I think.
Yeah, big
because
time.
I'm like quite. This is all not that it's nerve-wracking doing this or whatever, or you know, gigging. I enjoy performing, but I guess if you're more slightly introverted, like it's harder to network and it's harder to.
Well, look at
think
some of
it
the
can
guys
be,
that are
but-
successful at NAMM and stuff that you see that are like guys that will just absolutely, you know, kick down a door and be like, fucking check me out, boys, and then, you know, they'll walk away with like a free amp or something. You're like, what
Yeah.
just happened?
I don't know if that's
Where,
success,
I know that's
success,
not
but-
exactly how it works, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know,
I think at the end of
Terrifying
the day,
speaking to
though,
some of these guys.
certain people will warm to a more introverted approach. So whatever approach you take, it's got to be true to who you are.
Yes.
And I mean, I've worked with loads of musicians who are really gentle and introverted, who are really
Like Dave, for
successful.
instance.
You know, yeah,
yeah.
like Dave Bainbridge being who have loads of tenacity and self-belief, but don't just necessarily shout about it. So I think just being real, and I think, like you say, like it's a people business. Just focus on the person and making relationships happen.
So if we're going to summarise the first three, because we did kind of have 4 steps to Kickstarter, so you would kind of say plan things methodically, don't jump in with both feet immediately at the deep end and get yourself into issues and financial
Yeah.
troubles. Yours is kind of, sorry Dave.
Well, and that the mindset thing as well.
Yeah.
Start today. Don't leave it till next week. Start
Yeah.
today, thinking yourself a musician.
And yours is basically,
I would just
you know,
try and get involved in as many
Yes.
different little avenues. So like little acoustic gigs where you're reading, show like pit stuff. I mean, I did the cruise ships for a bit. You know, don't go. I'm not doing that because it's a pop gig. There's a lot to be learned from that. You know,
Yeah.
try and do some jazz gigs. Like literally, try and do as much. You know, that's what I end up like coming out with these random stylistic stuff. That you're like, where does that come from? But, you know,
Okay.
yeah, be a yes man.
be a yes man.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's kind of a third point, if
Be
you
a
like.
yes man.
Yeah.
Really is that.
And then the fourth point that I'm going to make is, well, it's kind of 2 points built into one. And my point is, never rely on a single income stream, because as a musician you just can't do that. If you're a
Very true.
lawyer, you can rely on a single income stream because you do that for, you know, you train for years to do that very, very specific thing. But these days, relying on a single gig or relying on a single income stream is career suicide in a way, because that gig's going to end at some point, and then what do you do?
That's why I have technically 3 jobs now.
Exactly. So you've ended up working.
The
a lot.
only
So-
downside to that, if I will say something, is that if you fall behind in any one of them, the other ones don't care because.
No,
like,
so but that absolutely, but that's time management. Obviously,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
that's time. Again, if you worked as a lawyer and you had a side job doing something else, then the
Yeah,
other guy
it
doesn't
doesn't
care.
care, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
that's in everything. And then the other thing that kind of bolts onto this is kind of related to what the other guys were saying, which is you need the widest possible skill set you can possibly have. So, like from my perspective, like even doing the guitar hour, you know, this is. We don't do this for any financial means at all. We do it because we wanted to do it. But obviously, from a career perspective, it's good. You guys get to see us every single week, so on and so forth. But in order to do this, I had to learn how to put the stream together. I had to learn how to use After Effects, Photoshop, learn how to use all the gear and stuff. Design websites and stuff as well.
And the thing is, like doing this kind of thing, even just sitting here chatting, we all end up learning different things off each other anyway, just
Yep.
from the situation of it all, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are really the main things that we wanted to talk about in terms of kickstarting your career. I actually have to say, I think if you're trying to kickstart your career, I think Dave's advice is the one to really follow at the moment, because the others kind of suggest that you're already on the process of working on building your career. Whereas if you are one of those guys, like I worked at Virgin Megastore selling records for 6 years, and I wanted to be a full-time guitar player or whatever that is, you know, that thing that we want to be. Dave's advice of don't just jump in with both feet and have a good mindset and think about the financial implications. And I remember when I did it, I gradually staged my exit from Virgin Megastore.
One step closer to the door each time.
Yeah, literally, and ended up doing a little bit of teaching. I remember I taught at a local college, and I was teaching adults who'd never picked up a guitar before. And I remember how hilariously ambitious I was with how much they would achieve in a 10-week course. I had them doing all sorts of crazy tunes with bar chords at the end of the 10th week. You learn, you develop your skills.
Yeah.
But it just trying to jump in with both feet is a recipe for disaster. Really.
Like financial pressure of, you know, if I don't
Yeah.
do this, then I'm going to lose the house or whatever. But
Yeah, you don't.
even
need
if
that.
you start, say you get a few students teaching privately on like a Saturday morning, if you get a Saturday morning booked up, the price of guitar lessons will probably outweigh, say, like a day of teaching in a normal job. I say normal job, depends what you're doing, but like for Virgin Megastore, for instance, the ratio for like maybe 1 hour. I don't know, how much did you get for working at Virgin Megastore?
Well, it was 2006, so I started there in 2004. I was on about £5.25 an hour.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, what is it now?
Amazed
Now,
that
like
probably about
£7
7 or 8
isn't
quid
it?
now. Well, it doesn't exist anymore, but if you work at HMV or whatever, it's probably 7 or 8
So you're
quid.
talking, if you do 1 hour's guitar lesson, that's probably maybe 2-3
Yeah.
hours of normal work.
Exactly.
So if you get 4 hours on a Saturday, that's kind of enough to maybe
Great way
knock
to
off a
look at
day, and then you can work it.
And you got to design that as well.
If you guys, because I'm quite new at this, if you guys are interested in following my blog, I've got loads of stuff like this in terms of the stuff I've been learning as going along. So I've got stuff about how to get into guitar teaching, and loads of stuff. You just head over to davebronze.com /blog. There's loads of stuff for you guys who are looking to get started, because as I go along I just share what I'm figuring out, because literally I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. I'm just trying
Nobody
to
really
figure it
knows
out.
what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody
So-
knows what they're doing.
there is a really interesting question here from G Sharp Majab. He says, how do you feel about people who treat music more like their income? Now, I think I understand this question. Using their time more to write songs, teaching and starting bands, but that have a more commercial sound and could interest the bigger labels. So we're obviously, he was saying that we're all definitely on the artist side. Obviously, none of us would interest big labels. But do you know any people like that? And actually, the guy who lives opposite us over the road, I don't know why I'm pointing, that means nothing to you guys, but the boyfriend of his daughter is in a band, I can't remember the name of the band, Northern, oh man, I'll put it in the chat later, and I'll make sure on YouTube there's a link to it. They have had quite a bit of success around this area and in the UK, and he really struggles to make a living from it, because it's not the kind of music where he can teach, say, for instance. It's not the kind of music where he can sell anything other than the music, and he really struggles, and basically the only way that he could make a living from that music is if they have label success, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys know anyone like that.
Well. When I was working on ships, I backed. So they have like guest entertainers that fly on.
By the way, sorry, City of Lights is the name of the band. City of Lights. Sorry, Dan.
It's cool. So I was working on cruise ships, and you get guest entertainers that fly on for that day, and you do a show with them at night. So they turn up at 4 o'clock. You have a rehearsal. They just give you the music, and you've got a show at 7, show at 9. But one of the girls that flew on was a girl that won The Voice
All
a
right.
year previously. So she's obviously been on TV, gone all the way through this competition, won this TV show. I'm like, oh, right, that's it, fucking made it, this is going to be it. And because it's on the BBC, once she'd won, they recorded an album, and because it's the BBC, they don't really have adverts. Well, they don't have adverts, so there wasn't really an avenue to plug her album. So the year went by, nothing happened, just got dropped, and then she's just on ships now, which is obviously it's not bad because guest entertainers get paid decent money. But think like if you've done something like that, you think, right, that's it. I'm in it now. I've made it. I'm going to do this thing, and then a year later, she's just
The commercial side
she's
is a
just
big
back to. That's
disconnect.
worse. I think that's worse than. I think that's worse to get to a stage and then drop than to mill over at this middle
Yeah.
ground and just make like a comfortable
This-
living all the way across.
We have to kind of, like, obviously, say what you were saying, we have to kind of round this up a little bit because we're almost an hour in already.
Yeah, I was just going to say the cheesy thing of it's important to enjoy where you're at whilst keeping your head on, keeping your eye on what's coming forward. You still got to enjoy where you're at.
Sorry, I heard like a really good anecdote about this on a podcast on the way. Can I say it?
You can if you're quick.
Right. Well, so anyway, this comedian is in the dressing room about to go on stage, and if he's like not feeling the gig, he sort of closes his eyes and imagines himself as like an 80-year-old man, and sort of and then thinks like, oh, I wish I could be 27 again, just about to go on stage at the Bradford, what was the hall called?
St George's Hall.
St George's Hall. And then he sort of like gets really into that headspace and that thought, and then he opens his eyes and he's there, and he's like, oh yes, and then he goes on stage, so he kind of like Sort of like appreciating
good.
where you are rather than being like, oh fucking hell, you know.
Yeah. No, it's good.
Okay, so as usual, hope that was useful, guys. Plenty to kind of talk about there, and hopefully some of you guys who are trying to kickstart your career and make a living out of music will kind of appreciate some of that. So we are now moving into, and hopefully you can still hear me because there's no music on this transition, so you can still hear me. I'm not being obliterated by. Yeah, this is our hands-on section, so we're going to do some playing. I'm going to play something first. Then BB and I are going to demonstrate something which related to a question that came up last week. I think it was last week.
Yeah, it was last week, yeah.
And then we're going to have a jam. So, make sure that you are... I can just about get it. Make sure you're voting on that backing track poll. So far, the B-Fat Scofield style groove is winning. If you don't want that to win, you need to keep voting. Otherwise,
I
we're in
don't
trouble.
want that to win.
Dave doesn't want that to win. Save Dave. Bing, 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 bing. Thank you for following the stream. If we missed anybody who's following the stream, because we're not paying attention, I apologise. Joe Crow 1, thank you for following the stream. We apologise. We got rid of the clapping sound because it was offensive to people's ears. It basically was like RIP headphone users, at least for their hearing, so apologies for that. So I'm going to try and play a tune now. This little bit of kind of, tell you a little bit about this tune. This basically, I'm going to be playing to one of the demos for my album because the drums and bass are recorded for quite a bit of the album, and I realise it's taking forever. This is my kind of homage to Greg Howe. It's called The Funky Chicken. It's not actually called The Funky Chicken, but that's what I've been calling it for a long time now. The beginning of this is actually on my YouTube channel from years and years and years ago, but I never finished it, and then it got finished quite a while ago now. The drums and bass are all recorded, but the keys aren't, and I don't have mixed versions of the drums, but the drums that are on it and the bass that are on it sound pretty good actually, they sound fine. So you're not listening to the final version, but you're listening to me play basically what's the final guitars. 90% of it's improvised, so if I get really boring, I apologise, and if I forget how to play it, I apologise as well. I don't generally play these live.
Disclaimers?
Disclaimers. I always give disclaimers. It's bizarre.
It's awesome, guys. You're going to love it.
I also have to reach, cross and press play and then come back really quickly because I've given myself about half a second counting. So apologies if that goes wrong. So, here we go.
Oh, chunky ficking.
awesome.
It's surprisingly nerve-wracking playing your own tunes on a live stream.
Yeah.
Well, that's
surprising. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, amazing.
So I enjoyed that, guys. That's basically, as I say, my homage to Greg Howe. But what you just heard is the MIDI version. So it's just so you know what's going on. It's Stylus RMX on drums. If you don't know what Stylus RMX is, it's amazing. You use Stylus RMX, right?
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't. Trillion on bass, and on the actual album, Stefano Rusica plays drums and Adam Nitti plays bass, and it's just infinitely more awesome rhythm section.
Adam Nitti.
I messed up on a few parts of the song. Greg Howe's awesome too. Yeah, and then basically the keys that you heard were programmed by me, and they're bloody awful. So on the final version, obviously, Alex Argento's going to be playing keys on that as well. So I just need to get around to kind of finalising all of that. Are you going for a toilet break in the middle of the guitar round?
Sorry, man.
Unbelievable. We're about to play something.
Just for
Remember to switch your mic off.
just on a logistical thing with making albums with people that aren't in the same room or country.
Yes.
So, for instance, all the parts that are on there now, you've programmed the bass and the keys and stuff.
Well, to within my ability of, like, we were talking about skill sets earlier on. That's
Right.
not one of my skill sets at all.
So when you send this to one of these guys, do you just give them complete free reign, or
Yeah, pretty
is
much.
it pretty much
Like
free
Adam
reign apart
Nitti-
from the stuff that you think has to be a certain?
Yeah. So the bass part, I sent Adam Nitti a chart,
Right.
and he basically played off that. But obviously, because he's a bass player, he played
Is it
infinitely
just-
better parts.
Right.
than-
Okay.
And like for one of the tunes, one of the tunes has a groove. Again, I'll just really quickly play you the MIDI version of it, because again, it's all been recorded, but I don't have the mixed versions. So I don't mind.
This is
I don't
again
mind playing
interesting
you.
information, because if
Absolutely.
you have a vision, and it's like, how much do you? Because we've all been in situations where somebody sends you like the most ridiculously explicit parts.
Absolutely.
Go in and you're like, "Fuck, I don't. It's more difficult to do that than to let them be you and just put the bits in that they need.
Yeah, so one of the tracks, which is codenamed Tapioca Nights at the moment, is a Latin track. I don't want to play too much of this, but like the groove goes like this. Sort of chicoria. Now, Anton Davidians recorded the bass for this. It's ridiculous. But he's played way cooler, like he's played fills and runs and stuff in between, which is kind of cool. So that's kind of the groove. It's all based around like a B altered chord. But yeah, I sent him just you see in
sample.
real books where you see suggested bass lines.
Yeah, they do that in.
And he's just played
like,
the coolest
basic
bass lines
songs and
ever.
stuff. You get like,
Yeah.
it'll have a 2-bar suggested bass pattern stylistically, and you can pretty much do what you want as long as it's within the field, and then the rest of it is just chord chart.
I'm sorry, I've got to laugh because Uncle Rob's put BB went for a PP.
Hey!
They also want to know if you washed your hands and if you released your farts.
I did. I did wash my hands and I did release my farts.
Oh, you did? I'm glad.
Oh, thanks.
I'm glad to know
Because it's
that.
so
Release the
warm in
hams.
here.
It is
If I drop one here, we're all gonna die.
unbelievably warm in here. It won't float up because it's just hot air all the way up.
There will be no album from any of us.
The fart hour. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, Mr. BB and I are going to play something. Now, this is quite interesting because this is definitely not. There's no disclaimers here. This is not supposed to be a performance. This is a demonstration of a practice thing that you've been working on
Yeah.
quite a bit. Do you want to introduce this and explain it?
Sure.
And this
Well-
relates to a question.
Yeah, last week we had a question about, because we talk a lot about single line soloing and improvising, and someone asked about comping or chordal stuff, and it's actually something I've been working on quite a lot. I think when I first had a lesson with Tommy, he sort of explained the thought process behind improvising is that single line playing and comping is not really any different. It's
And I didn't come up with that.
two sides of the same coin, and a light bulb sort of went off. A very heavy light bulb went off where I realised, this is
400 watts.
I'm sorry, they're still talking about farting in the
So it's just
Let's
a
talk about when
chock-
Martin
chock
was
full of
here and Martin
guys.
went out specifically to fart. Anyway, enough about farting.
Yeah, and so what was I saying?
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's
Sorry, I
coin,
don't-
same coin.
I apologise.
So yeah, but basically, I'm trying to. It's basically trying to improvise two lines at once. So trying to see more harmony than just your single line at any one time. And so I've been working on this. It's not really comping yet. It's more just trying to see two or possibly three notes.
Improvising polyphonically. Basically.
Yeah, that's the best way of putting it. Improvising polyphonically.
Is this to kind of try and reach the kind of thing that maybe somebody like Jonathan Kreisberg will do, or Gilad Hexelman does?
Oh, they'll do it with 3 or 4
They
notes.
just sort of
Some
do
C,
these.
like
It's
big
not like
numbers.
they'll move voicings up, and it's not like it's a learnt.
It's more
It's
of
not like they've
a
got shapes
trying
that they're
to
just going
stop
up.
thinking of chord shapes and trying to think
Just
of the
see.
notes, the intervals from the harmony,
Right,
and
okay.
trying to be able to have that at my disposal.
So what it absolutely isn't, guys, is learning inversions of chords. So if you had a G minor, seeing as the last tune I played was just in G minor, it's not this. Learning inversions or even inversions of triads, which you should know anyway.
I mean, I've done that.
not
I'm
that
not saying
kind of
that's perfect or anything, but it's just that this other way is really appealing, in that it's kind of like how the single line stuff got so addictive and exciting when I found I could kind of do it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I want to do more and more of this because I can see the end. I mean, it's a long, long, long way off, but I can see the goal. Whereas with learning lots, I mean, if you try to do like shape after shape, inversion after inversion, I mean, it's kind of impossible.
I don't know how. I know guys that do that, and I do
Yeah, but I
not
don't-
know how you remember that much.
But I don't think you do. I don't know. I don't know if the human brain works that way. Like I mean,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
people's must do. But if you, the way I try and put it across in teaching is if you understand what you're doing, and you have if you really understand it, then
So you
you're
don't
more
have to
likely to
remember
memorize it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and you're constructing those pathways in your mind in each time. And
Well, this is what Holdsworth used to talk about when he was saying, I think it was Holdsworth, the best way to learn something is to do it yourself and not read it from a book, because if you figure it out yourself, you'll attach more worth to it and retain it.
some
More
of
This
the,
is
quickly.
the, this is the
Familiar.
got tabs.
Familiar.
argument.
Got tabs,
Yeah,
yes.
it is.
Got
So-
tabs, brah.
If you work something out of a tune, you can remember it. Then reading someone else's transcription. But sorry.
No, yeah, he's exactly right. Yeah, if you work it out yourself or you transcribe and stuff, things like that. So we're gonna just basically, I mean, do a couple of minutes jamming on "Beautiful Love."
Beautiful Love, if you don't know, it's the tune that... So on and so forth. I don't know if you know that one. Oh, no, you know. I looked at you at the wrong moment. Mr. Beanie doesn't actually know this tune.
Yeah. So yeah, just gonna see how it goes. So what I'm trying to do here is not, rather than seeing a chord shape,
Yeah.
trying to see 2 notes from the harmony and play it.
Hopefully he's not going to be like on the on the first chord. He's not going to be on the minor chord. He's not going to be visually in flat 9s and flat 6s. But it's that thing of knowing what the harmony is and then
Yeah.
figuring out what intervals you want to play.
So
Basically.
you're gonna comp. How's it gonna work?
We decided what. Yeah, actually that's important. So what's going to happen is basically I'm going to start off by playing really simple bass line, just root notes. Mr. Beebe's going to count it in because this requires quite quick brain processes. So he's going to count. This is exactly what we talked about last week, which was working at the pace that your brain wants to work at, not rushing for the sake of rushing and making
Sticking
sure
the
that.
backing track on 200 BPM.
No.
So this is not flashy.
It
Or-
certainly isn't flashy. It's not meant to be.
But you get to see in real time what I'm actually doing now on a day-to-day basis. When
I will see it in real time as well.
yeah, we do get it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
In the camera.
Okay,
Cool.
so we'll try and do this. We'll probably get a little bit interactive in terms of soloing at some point as well, so that'll be quite interesting. Okay, so I'll let you count it in.
Yeah.
Oh, before you... Oh, sorry. Let's
Yeah.
just check with right volume for it.
You're a bit louder, Tad.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
almost bark-like. Actually.
Yeah, well, it
kind of
does.
Fugue-ish.
It
It's
does
amazing.
when you get, especially when you get, like obviously you were doing the two-note thing a lot, but when you get the mesh of two lines together, it sounds really beautiful. Martin and I do it a lot when we
it's
gig.
amazing when I saw you guys do that.
Like, can we just do one more thing? If we play like single note lines together as well,
yeah, that's really nice. Yeah.
if
Didn't
we
quite
just to
happen
demonstrate that,
Yeah.
well, you were working on the two-note thing,
Yeah,
but
so
if we play single lines together, so
resolving it and sort of like we
playing off each other as well. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can hear the interaction basically between the lines, which is quite nice. So,
Cool.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
That's
Nice,
That's
nice
one of the
idea.
best things you can do if you're trying to be an improvising guitar
Me
player.
and you
is
used to do it all the time as well.
Yeah, I've
didn't
done it. Casa del Beebs.
Casa del Beebs.
Is because there's so much there's
The
so much that you're
beehive.
working on. The beehive, yeah.
Beehive.
Because you've obviously got the harmony, but you've got to try and outline the chords without the chords if you're doing that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And then you've got to stay in time, and you've got to listen to what the other guy's doing and react. There's like so many skills that are getting
It's a lot of fun.
like so many boxes are being ticked from doing that. So much more than just sitting there with a backing track, which is fine.
It's a really interesting kind of challenge to try and outline the harmony in your lines, or in your when you're doing two-note dyads, or even three notes, just to kind of outline the harmony. It's cool. Okay, so that was very loud. Sorry, my so was incredibly loud there. You guys, I believe, have been voting in our backing track poll. At least I hope you have. Do you think that's because you said you didn't want it?
No, I think it's because we have too many Scofield fans in the feed.
So yeah, this is a pathetic number of votes, people. We need more. We need more votes. Maybe you've all voted. Who knows? So the John Scofield New Orleans Groove track has won, which again, Quist, would you mind not soloing, please? This is a Quist jam track. Let me put that in. I wanted the Satriani track to win.
Yeah, I wanted to start one.
2 weeks in a row, actually. It didn't
Let's do that
win. So again, like in the chat, I'm just going to put the guy's channel on YouTube. Type that into YouTube, Quist Jam. This is basically a B flat groove. You'll hear if I just play the backing track for you. I am so using the wrong sound for this. Hold on. Okay, so this track, what I always try and do at the beginning of each of these when we start jamming basically is just give you some ideas of what you can play. You voted for the slow one, Uncle Rob. Bing, 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 bing. We stream it once a week on a Thursday at 7:30 p.m. GMT, except You will actually find all the dates of when we're streaming on the Guitar Hour Facebook page, which is just facebook.com/The Guitar Hour, because I'm going on holiday, we have various other things, so we can't stream every single week, but we've streamed for the last 3 weeks. We'll be streaming next week at this time at 7:30 PM. Then we have a quick break, and then we're going to come back.
On and off, on a straight and different day.
Oh, Wednesday coming up, haven't we?
So next week we're on, same as normal. The week after, it's our mid-season break. And then the week after that, we're on a Wednesday, because I think on the Thursday, Dan, you were away.
Oh, okay. I did look at that on my calendar. I was like, oh shit, did I mention it? But yeah,
we did. I remembered.
Yeah.
You were abroad, weren't you?
Probably. I don't know.
Okay, so this particular track is based out of just a B flat 7. So you can hear again. I'll just play it really quick. So no jamming over it this time, please. And Euquist. So pretty straightforward, but there's a shed load of stuff you can do on this. So, like from a personal point of view, I'm going to be using diminished scale stuff, some mixed Lydian things, some Lydian dominant. Anything else? Minor pentatonic is great over this. Three notes, one of which must be a bend.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Okay.
because it's static. There's a lot of things you can do. You can do the Joe Pass thing. Put a 5 where there isn't a 5.
Doesn't matter. You can. Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying there isn't a 5.
No, I mean like.
Yeah. So what Dan's doing there is he's basically implying F7, leading back. If you listen to the sound, leads back to. I forgot about that. I'm going to do that now. Leads back to. Just brain failure. Thinking about other things. All right, guys. So. This is 6 minutes long, so we might do it twice. It depends. Depends how long we solo for. All right. So who wants to go first? Well, I'll go first.
Oh, it's worse.
It's not worse. Somebody needs to go next. Yeah. You're a dirty man, Mr. Bronze. Bronze bringing raw death, awesome. Oh, Tone! all right. Oh no! One more time around, guys. I get so excited when Dave plays. Dave.
Again, do that one again, Dan.
We need that, don't we? We all need that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, cool.
Just throughout the gate, I'm not that tasty at all. Nearly finished.
Now it's like a proper job.
Nice one, guys.
Oh, I love it.
There we go.
Amazing. All right, guys. So that's pretty much all the playing for this evening. So,
Question
oh
time.
well, yeah, of course.
Oh.
If I can remember it. So we have basically questions for you. So yeah, there's no transition for this, so we can just go straight in. So whoever's making noises, if they could.
Sorry.
Thank you. That's all right. No problem. So when do we start with this? We've got quite a lot of questions now. What we have to do, guys, because we've been streaming for an hour and a half already, is keep these really short answers, like bullet point answers.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the first one. They're on the back of your sheet. So James Abraham, hi Tom and guys. After looking for a long time for a 335 type guitar, I've recently bought an Ibanez, same as Tom's. All right, yeah, the one I used to have. You've got one as well.
That's, oh, yeah.
Yeah, for 1/10 the cost of a custom shop 335. I love it, but had not seen Tom playing one. Or had I not seen Tom playing one, I've overlooked the brand altogether because the guitars are made in China. My question is, do you or have you struggled with brand snobbery, and do you think attitudes have changed at all? I think there's loads of brand snobbery.
It's definitely around.
Yeah. Like, I don't worry about it so much, but obviously I kind of play these guitars for two reasons. First, they're amazing, and because I obviously have a deal with Feminari, but they're incredible guitars. But like I've got lots of, like I've got a vintage bass here. And a really horrible old 7-string Ibanez, but actually it's quite good. I just say it's horrible, but that Ibanez was amazing. It is amazing.
I think snobbery is a little bit, like brand snobbery is a little bit unrealistic. I think if you go out and try stuff,
Yeah.
like you'd be surprised at. I mean, a mate of mine had a Pacifica that was
I've got one.
amazing.
I've got Pacifica.
Yeah, I've got one. It's great.
I think a lot of it's in the mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if you feel like it makes you play better by having a really expensive guitar, then go for it. But actually, loads of really good players I know will have play stuff that they're amazing on that most people would think was cheap. You know,
Yeah.
cheap instruments.
Yeah.
On the other side, I've played really expensive guitars or really expensive acoustics that I prefer my own. That's like, you know,
I get that
600 quid,
completely.
which is still not cheap for people. But
Okay, so brand snobbery does exist, but I think attitudes are changing as people kind of. A lot of people buy, we can't get into this too much, but a lot of people buy a second guitar. And I think with Ibanez particularly, people get surprised at how good they are for the money. They didn't used to be, but now they are.
Yeah,
Very
I think
good.
so.
So the stuff
Yeah.
made in the Far East now is fantastic. Kyle Green, Bass Cadet. Hey guys, question. Do you fellows feel like there are a few keys to which you typically gravitate, or do you vary this in your compositions as much as possible? This is a good question for you, Dave. And do you feel like your phrasing is equally developed in all keys? Dave?
It's two different questions. Right, okay. Straight up, I'm the rock player of the Guitar Hour.
E minor.
E minor. If it's in E minor, I'm pretty confident I can deliver a good selection of licks. If it's in D or D major, A minor, whatever. But it's totally different for composition. Composition, I gravitate towards keys that work for keys, key players.
I was going to say what?
If I wrote to keys that work for keys. Now, so for example, key will play a lot in flats. So I end up writing a lot of songs in flats. So that kind of breaks that up a little bit. And sometimes you're dictated by certain things sound better in some keys.
not be dictated by the way it's played as well. If you use open strings, or
Especially with the
strings,
guitar,
I
yeah.
use
You could
open
do a
strings
different tuning.
are a massive. For me, I use open strings a lot in my.
Can we take Desert Rose as an example?
Yeah.
Like you don't need to play it unless you want to, but like what key is it in?
It's in. Ooh, we can talk about that tune.
That's all that whammy bar abuse.
Yeah, so that, it's. I mean, Desert Rose adds a lot.
Yeah, so the question there is, was it written, and again we have to go through this fairly quickly, but was it written to incorporate open strings, or did you start and then...
I started not really thinking about that as I went forward, but I have another song that's, my guitar's really out of tune, so I apologise. It goes so that isn't going to work there, so I changed that in original, so that I can do all that kind of stuff,
awesome.
so it works. So that'd be an example of changing the key to work with the composition.
Cool. Okay, that's great.
Just one thing on that. The thing about writing for other instruments or writing be sympathetic to other instruments. Like if you write a song in A, you think, oh yeah, it's a piece for guitar. You give that to a sax player, and then they're playing in B. So they've got like 5 sharps to contend with, and they're like, and don't give them shit if they can't play it straight away.
My tune Miracle Maker as well features the Ullum pipes, which is an Irish kind of bagpipe, and that can only play in certain keys, so I had to change the key of the outro to work for that particular instrument. So I guess, it's two things. Improvising, I need to work on it. Composition, don't care what the key is.
And my answer to that, I don't have any aversion to any particular key, but I tend to play in all the usual keys for like B flat and E flat when I'm playing in jazz, or like F or G, and then on guitar E and A.
If it's like
the usual things,
country stuff, obviously you're going to get your G's, D's, anything with open strings.
Depends what music you're playing.
Style dependent a lot of it. I mean, a lot of jazz stuff is flat keys, and then a lot of rock players think sharp keys more. And
yeah, I mean, sorry.
No, it's just. I think the guitar's quite a lucky. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. The guitar as an instrument, because its biggest help is its biggest hindrance in the way it's laid out. So we can literally just move up a fret and we're there, and there's nothing changes. But I think your visualization has got to be. Regardless of how it is, it's got to be solid. In order for that to work correctly, if it's not, if you have some sort of chinks in your armour of it, then I know for myself, like certain keys in the past have been problematic, but that's before I was looking at the fretboard in a more appropriate.
I was going to say, this is the thing. If you start looking at it intervallically,
that changes everything. I mean, keep banging on about it, but
disappearing.
It sort of changes.
Not overnight. Okay, cool.
That's it.
Oh, sorry, there was slightly more to Carl's question. He says, I know all my scales, but rarely feel moved to play in, say, A flat. Is this normal due to the nature of guitar? Do I need to man up and break away from the usual suspects? He doesn't play a lot of jazz. I wouldn't worry about that.
Just do it.
I think
just do what you enjoy,
appropriate. Yeah.
I mean, the only if you're not a jazz guy, and the only time you might come over weird keys or weird situations is if you're working with a singer, and they go right. This needs
what
to
the capo was invented for.
Yeah,
capo.
Well, yeah, but solo and capo doesn't
singer.
affect like lead playing, does it? But like
What? Yeah, sorry, on a different note, I just think, because I know we've got to finish this, try playing with open tunings or writing. I write a lot on piano because I don't understand how it works. And that
try a
helps me.
different instrument as well.
Yeah, that helps me just focus more on what it sounds like rather than defaulting to standard shapes.
Okay, next question. I stupidly didn't write this chap's name down. I apologise. But it was a question that came up on Facebook in a message, so I apologise if you recognise this question. I didn't write your name down. Hey guys, I'm trying to learn perfect fourths tuning with the help of Tom's visualising the fretboard lesson. I have a 9 gauge set of strings on a 24.75 guitar. That's the scale length.
Yeah.
Now, this 24.75 is a Strat scale length.
Yeah.
Would you be so kind to tell me what string set and gauge I can use to still tune EAD, GCF or fourths without breaking the top 2 strings? You should be able to use 9s or 10s. I've got 11s on my guitars. This guitar's got 11 to 56, no, 56, 11 to 49 on it, and I'm not snapping strings. You can do you can do all that kind of stuff. You shouldn't be snapping strings just by tuning up a half step. What you will find is if you find that the tension on a set of 10s is too high when you tune the top two strings up, but you like 10s, try, Andy Wood got me into this, although I should do it again, try a set of 9.5s.
Yeah.
That will probably sort you out, because that's probably what the difference in tension is.
You could get a balanced tension set, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
People like that.
So there are ways around that, but if you're snapping strings, you should really be able to put 11s or 12s on and tune up. The only thing that should really cause you an issue is not the tension on the string, whether your neck and the truss rod can take the extra added tension that you're putting in. You'll need to adjust the truss rod of the guitar and adjust your setup when you tune up that way, because inevitably there's more tension in the neck, and it depends. Like I've got a rosewood neck on this guitar, it's pretty sturdy. The Bird's Eye Maple Telly, the Roadmaster 56, if I change back to standard tuning, the action gets too low, it's too flabby.
You've got like a floating bridge.
Yeah, if you've got a floating
to
bridge,
tweak that.
you have to retune everything basically, yeah. So that's fourths. Okay, so Psych Jams. Psych Jams is here. Hello, Psych Jams. Tom, these were questions from, I streamed last night with hideous sinus pain and a whiskey. I was doing a test for this capture card. So these were questions that we had last night. Mr. Beebe was there. So I'm just going to re-answer some of these questions because they're quite useful, and a few of the guys are still here on the stream. So, Psych Jams, Tom, how do you deal with left-hand legato pain? My answer to this was you shouldn't be experiencing pain. If you're experiencing pain, you're doing something wrong, and you should... Hi, Psych Jams. So you've already heard the answer to this question, but basically it's about removing tension from the left hand. The way, I'll do the short version of it because we've been streaming for ages, is you want to... it's much easier to add tension in afterwards than it is to put tension in from the beginning and then try and remove it. So if you're doing legato, don't worry about the volume or the quality of the sound of your notes initially. Just get the technique correct and consistent and feeling good, and then think about the volume of your notes, because if you do it that way, you're adding tension in afterwards. And the other thing I said is you should be, that's very true, BBM 14, there could be a flaw on the nut of the bridge causing the strings to snap. The other thing is you should be able to talk and play at the same time. So if you're doing legato stuff, like I'll have a conversation with Dan. Dan, ask me some questions. It is a sort of party trick, but it's more to demonstrate the technique shouldn't be so involved with the left hand that you can't think at the same time. So, fire away, Dan.
What lens should I buy for my camera next?
You getting into lenses?
Well, I was like, what is... So I went out, I was taking some pictures in Northern Ireland, and it seems like I was working with like depth of field and stuff, but in terms of this way, it was like a bit of a pain in the ass.
The width of the lens?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want like a 20mm lens probably, or even a 14mm lens? Because if you don't have a 14mm lens like on the Micro Four Thirds cameras, it's not going to work. Basically. So you can see it's a stupid conversation. Well, it's not a stupid conversation, but for this guitar hour, it's a silly conversation. But you can see the point. That allows you to have a conversation, which means that the technique is not really tense all the time. You know, if you do that and you've got a vein, this is my other thing I always say, if you've got a vein popping out the side of your head, it means that there's too much tension in there. So work really, really slowly to remove the tension at the expense of your note volume and your note quality of the tone at the moment, and then reintroduce as much tension as you need afterwards. So that's kind of my advice for that. So the next one. Hey Tom, I have one question. How do you achieve looking at the fretboard in terms of intervals and not shapes? Do you use shapes, patterns, or intervals? I'm going to let you answer that because you know all about this now.
By the tutorial.
Yeah,
that's what I said last night.
By Tom's tutorial.
Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely a huge. If you can play using sort of an intervallic approach, it really frees up. Well, for me, I find it really frees up the creative side. Because I think there was always a little bit of doubt, this little bit of fear when I was using sort of more sort of boxes and shapes and 3/0 strings, and not that that's not useful or not good, and it certainly breeds good vocabulary in certain styles. But if you're wanting to be free against changes or anything that's a little bit more involved harmonically, having an intervallic approach to looking at the fretboard is immensely like freeing, and it like just doing that stuff earlier, on Beautiful Love. I mean, I could never have dreamt of doing that like years ago when I was doing it a different way. And I mean, I'm sure some people can do it like that, but for me, if I had to think of a different sort of big block shape for every one of those chords, it just seems impossible. Whereas if all I've got to think about is what is this interval against this root note and where does that fall on the fretboard, it's very freeing. So
it's much. It's not necessarily easier because there's still a lot of work involved. But when the work's been done, it's easier.
The way I kind of describe it to my students is that if you imagine like the curve of learning, if you like the box shape approach is very easy at the beginning, but it gets very, very hard as you say learn 20, 30 sort of shapes. It's just keep piling them into your memory. It's harder and harder. Whereas the intervallic approach or the sort of more fretboard knowledge approach is harder at the beginning because your brain's going to be really engaged. It's got to be like processing in
Yeah,
real
yeah,
time. But then it levels off and it sort of gets easier later on.
Well, if you put like if you're trying to learn say G Dorian, and you're trying to learn that everywhere, if you're in the shape thing or 3-note string, that's quite a lot of shapes.
Oh yeah.
And then if you say right, I'm going to learn G melodic minor, again you're going to go that's a load of shapes. But if you do the intervallic thing, you know that you're only changing one note.
Yeah.
So everything else you just go, oh, I'll just move that there, and that's done. That's an afternoon.
Exactly. So
You know what I mean?
you can take very small bits of. You've said this a lot of times, but you take very small bits of information, and it applies to many things. Whereas when you have a more arbitrary big block shape that doesn't really mean anything to you, like perhaps theoretically, it's harder to sort of recall that and then use it musically.
Absolutely.
It's good for other instruments. Like I've had to learn lap steel for the band, and once you know where certain notes are, you go right. That's the root note. That's the fifth. That's the sixth. You kind of know. There's a lot of power in that rather than just going off shapes. Anything that's kind of visual, you can kind of get by doing that. Sort of like mandolin and stuff as well.
Well, I'm actually going to stop the questions there, and we'll move into the theme. But we're being told by Termination 001 we all have fabulous hair.
Oh.
I don't.
Great.
Dave's beard and Tom's pink socks are the two main talking points. Okay.
I'm actually wearing Christmas socks.
Right.
By you.
Oh, really? Okay. So that is. We had 2 more questions, but we've been streaming for 1 hour and 47 minutes.
Whoa. Oh dear.
The guitar.
The guitar
2 hour.
Hour and a lot. So that is pretty much it, guys. Hope you've enjoyed the stream. As usual, we're going to exit on a high, or we're going to try, and we're going to try and play the stream this week. We're going to try and play the theme tune even. This week, Mr. Beebe is taking a solo.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So yeah, I hope you enjoy this, guys. And as usual, this will be the end of the stream, and then I will quickly reach over and we'll end the stream. So say our goodbyes. So guys,
Yeah.
I got the tongue.
thank you so much as usual for joining us. Thank you for all the chat. You guys have been great in the chat as well. And thanks to our regulars, and thanks to anyone
Send more
new
questions.
who signed up. Send questions to the
Get
Facebook
involved.
page. It's all good basically. So yeah, we will see you fairly soon, guys. Do you want to just check? Because I need to change my sound for a Okay.
Just need another 200 notes just to check.
Right, this is kind of interesting because I have to do this again and then hop back onto my seat. So, see you later, guys. See you later, guys. We'll see you next time.